Mentioned that we're seeing a lot of pressure coming through, not only from the Competition Commission, but also the fact that share prices are starting to drop significantly since the beginning of the year. We've had some dismal earnings outlook from the likes of Marion Roberts and Avenge as well. Looking back into 2010, yes, we did have a good year because of World Cup spend as well. But into 2011, some are very worried where the government spending is going to filter through.
I think, looking into 2010, you had a nice build-up in infrastructure right up to the World Cup, up until where they lost, say, 54,000 jobs. And then for the rest of the year, we had a very steady spend, and I think that's what we're going to look at continuing into 2011, certainly on the infrastructure side. More on the corporate spending, I think was consolidated in 2010, which is a natural thing, coming out of the recession. I think companies wanted to make themselves smaller, and that's where your share prices have dropped a little bit. And in 2011, I think the main growth and speculative direction for the corporates will be moving into Africa, where there are some nice contracts coming online.
So Africa is the name of the game going forward. I was hoping you were going to say that 846 billion rand that has been spoken about by government over the last 2 years is finally going to filter through into South Africa.
It's certainly a happening place, and I think for bigger corporates, where the spending in South Africa has been cut, it's a good place for them to look to pick up contracts. We've just come across some really good evidence of China, investing a lot of money into Nigerian infrastructure, into Uganda, and our corporates are really well positioned in terms of a geographical area and competence, to pick up these contracts.
Into the South African market as well. I mean, we had Sanral doing fantastic work, and this also just buoying things slightly. Looking forward, we've also had, delay in payments for a lot of these companies, which has also impacted their balance sheets. Are you confident that things are going to turn around in 2011, or as you alluded to, we're going to be looking north of the border? And that's the sense that I'm getting from you right now.
I think we as South Africans, we're very optimistic people, and I'd certainly like to see that our infrastructure does get finished and that the government does pay on time. I wouldn't like to see all of our money moving into Africa, even though it is a really good place to prospect at the moment. In 2011, on the infrastructure side, I would certainly see a similar payment trend. Hopefully it improves.
Okay, into the rest of the continent, as you alluded to, Nigeria doing relatively well, Sub-Saharan Africa being a focal point. Do you expect most of these companies that operate in South Africa to start branching out even further into the rest of the continent?
Absolutely. I think we've seen a lot of mining infrastructure, coming up into Africa. A lot of the telecom houses are also starting to branch out into Africa, and it's only a natural thing that the rest of our industries will do the same thing. There's good money there. The Chinese have seen it as a really good potential investment, and we could be used as a catalyst to actually build Africa into a stronger continent.
Do you expect construction spend in South Africa to reach the levels that we saw in 2005, 2006, when we had a flurry of small companies listing on the JSE and of course doing relatively well? But then again, when you look at the overall construction industry versus 10 years ago, we're still in good stead in South Africa.
I think we're still in good stead, certainly with the amount of infrastructure spend that is happening. On the growth aspects and bringing smaller people into the market, I think we're looking more at an 18-month to 24-month turnaround time until the confidence returns to the market and consumers start spending again and they're happy to invest their money. And then I think we'll see some growth and newer players coming into the market.
Newer players. I was actually going to ask you if all the companies are going to be surviving this downturn and the fact that they're not getting the best attention from especially the foreign investors.
In Coface's opinion, we've had a look at that, and we had an initial drive of liquidations coming out of the recession, and then a lot of the companies that were related to the bigger ones that couldn't survive, we had another liquidation drive. I think that the market at the moment is quite nicely consolidated. We have a smaller base. So moving into 2011, I don't see that the numbers of liquidations or companies battling to make ends meet will increase.
What about the balance sheets and the health of some of these big companies and the big names? And I was alluding to delayment of payments and, of course, unrealized revenue. And we know that certain accounting practices that perhaps warp and skew certain earnings as well. That obviously must impact the whole supply chain as well. And I know that you also focus on a lot of research when it comes to, the industry as well. Overall sense, when you look at the balance sheets, would you say they're healthy, in a healthy position?
Very healthy. We've had a look at a lot of them, and they're extremely healthy at the moment. It's natural for the bigger corporates to consolidate and look at their costing, and we saw a lot of that last year. With them cutting jobs that weren't really necessary to finish the contracts. But moving forward into 2011, there's definitely enough reserves for them to actually make some positive moves.
As an investor, would you be buying into the construction space right now, buying into some of these stocks, or do you think that people should hold off and wait to see the upturn and whether they are going to be affected by the upturns in the sub-Saharan region and the growth prospects there, or whether to wait and see what happens in South Africa?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, if the stock prices are low now, it's probably a good time to buy, you know. And so I would definitely go for something in the construction industry at the moment. There's good prospects moving into Africa, and certainly over the next 18 months to 2.5 years, you could make some money.
And what about the Competition Commission and all the negative news surrounding them? You're sitting with a big smile. Well, just tell me about that and what are your sentiments with regard to this? Because this is also a very big blow in terms of confidence when it comes to the way that construction companies operate.
Yeah, I think that the word that you said is confidence. You know, it's something that had to happen. You know, it's good to have regulated markets, people looking at competition, make sure that the monopolies are not controlling everything. On the construction side at the moment, it's very speculative. You know, I think they've put a few names forward, but I haven't heard any hard evidence coming out yet. But a lot of the guys are looking to be transparent, you know, which I think is a really positive sign.